Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Dennis Dodd, CBS Sports. We've had him on a lot, not just because of realignment, but also many things college football. Dennis, thanks for your time this afternoon with Paul Craig, and I'm David Smoak. So if, in fact, Oklahoma, Texas leave early, whatever those exit fees, either then or the next year, is going to help pay back those who gave in a little bit as far as their revenue to the incoming four?
Yeah, I mean, the 8 schools, not counting Texas and Oklahoma, voted last year 8-0 with 2 abstaining to contribute to those 4 schools' entry at a 40% rate of the Big 12 revenue split, which was $42.6 million in the last couple of years. They're getting about $18 to $19 million in the next 2 years. That was negotiated. That was a condition of those 2 schools coming to the league. But Fox and ESPN weren't going to pay any more for the contract. Frankly, nor should they have for those 4 schools. So it had to come from within. And those 4 schools are out, $16 million, about 20% of the revenue they would get the next 2 years.
Dennis, do you think that there is any more movement towards this? I mean, it seems to have stalled, but that just means we haven't heard about it. But do you think that once we get the schedule released in a couple weeks, which they say will be in a couple weeks, but we'll start hearing more about what the plans are post 1 year of a 14-team league?
Yeah, I thought it had really gained momentum a couple of weeks ago when I was in Los Angeles for the championship game, and that turned out not to be the case. I have been told the time is running out. Texas and Oklahoma would have to give notice if they're leaving 18 months in advance. We are beyond that point of July 1st, 2024. That's not to say it couldn't be negotiated after that point, which we're 20 days past right now, to figure in 18 months. But I'm just told that it's, put or shut up time to do it. And I think there's momentum from the Big 12 to do it, but it's going to have to be the right number from Texas and Oklahoma.
So the amount of money that we're discussing, if Texas and Oklahoma leave early, 23-24, not 24-25, which is at the end of the grant of right, not the grant of right, or the end of the TV deal. I saw your figure could be as much as $168 million. I remember early on, Dennis, there were thoughts that it could be $80 million apiece. Is that from a different set of dollars compared to what you're mentioning with 168?
Well, that 168 basically equals 2 years worth of revenue, should they leave. So that's basically it. That's $168 million. That does not count negotiating, getting out of the grant of rights with these schools. I think I've seen the contract they're bound to for 99 years from the time they signed it. So that would have to be negotiated. I'm told that in these situations, when both parties are motivated to make a move, that number can be reached at about 60% of its maximum. So that's where you get sort of the $16 million then for each school who put in money. They would be made whole, basically. At least it's not gain money. So that's where that comes from. Those numbers are just kind of funny money right now,
right?
Because I think that's what they're negotiating. How much does the Big 12 want, and how much are those schools willing to pay?
So, Dennis, do you think it's just strictly a financial hurdle that's preventing this from just going ahead and moving on into separate directions? Is that the basis of
there's another significant part of this. Fox would have to be made whole.
Right.
Because they're the ones that are going to miss Texas and Oklahoma from a contract that they are already paying, obviously big dollars for, $42.6 million in concert with ESPN over the last 2 years of the deal. And they've already been very adamant about, we're not going to let them go just to be nice. We need something in return. Now, one of the things in return would maybe be a set of games, non-conference games in the future featuring Texas and Oklahoma that would be played in Big 12 stadiums. I don't know if there'd be much money involved in that to enhance the contract, but it would help the Big 12 strength of schedule and really help the contract in general going forward. But they have to be compensated in some sort of way. And I was told early on, by people in the industry, there's probably not enough games that you can even think of that would make up for the loss of Texas, Oklahoma. But if they're only going to be in one more year, maybe there is a finite number of games that there is to go there.
And whatever these termination exit, whatever these fees eventually are called or what they are, every bit of that, 100% of that, you say, will go to the original 8 who are staying, correct?
Whatever fee is negotiated, yes, will go back to the 8, Baylor and the 7-Up. That, they were the ones that voted to take money out of their income to fund the other schools. And another piece of this that I think is significant, after those first 2 years and the new contract begins for the Big 12 with the 4 new schools in 2025, they will immediately get a full share, which is not always the case. I don't think West Virginia did when it came in. I know that Rutgers didn't. They went to the Big 10. That was a period of years. They still might not get a full share in the Big 10. So that's rather rare when you bring in 4 teams like that. But that's what they negotiated. That's what they're going to get. And that contract averages $31.6 million per team. And probably, you're asking now, why is it so much smaller than the current deal? Well, it's not. It's more. When you add in the all-in figure, which includes NCAA tournament revenue, college football playoff revenue, bowl revenue, the Big 12 thinks it can get up close to $50 million per school going forward. And that would be significant because that would be more than they're making now with Texas and OU.
That's the just happy to be here fee at Rutgers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. What do you want to pay us? Yeah, that's fine. Whatever.
Yeah.
We'll go.
Yeah. Dennis, when it comes down to them leaving for a year, the Big 12 has taken long enough to get this schedule out. Could this schedule that we see this year be a total one-off and then they restart it again in the year that Texas and Oklahoma would be now gone?
Yeah, I mean, it could be. Look, we're not late in getting the schedule. I just noticed that the Pac-12 put theirs out this week, and the others will follow soon enough. But I think there's that, and I think there's the fact that I think there's a lot of, I don't know how to put it, egos and a lot of toes to be stepped on where, Texas has to play at Houston. I was told that they will. I don't have that officially. Texas wants no part of playing with Houston. I don't have to tell you why. Oklahoma, so they have to go to Cincinnati. And that's part of why they won out. They made it very clear to Brent Yormark shortly after he took office that they don't want to play those 4 schools. They just, for whatever reason, they look down their nose, whatever. They want to get to the SEC as soon as possible. But, yeah, I mean, I think that's going to be high drama to see when that Big 12 conference comes out to see who plays who.
Yeah, I think that both of them need to play all 4 of the incoming schools and maybe sacrifice a couple of the traditional rivalries. I mean, my God, they're the ones leaving. And again, it's going to be a give and take or whatever. Is the reason the schedule is delayed, or at least whatever it's called, because they don't know about whether Texas and Oklahoma will be back next year?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we know the membership for this year. We know the 14 that are going to be in this year. And it may be just a piece of, okay, until this revenue thing, this early exit thing is done or is dropped dead, there's no use in putting out the schedule. Let's create a positive, because those schedule releases are usually a net, publicity thing for any conference who does that. They put out their release and who plays who, and they're going to get a bump on it, whatever. It's going to be a really cool season with Texas and OU. Think about it. Mm-hmm. With Texas trying to find its way, with Oklahoma trying to find its way, who's going to be the power in the new Big 12 or powers, TCU coming off a championship game appearance. That's going to be really fun to see. And what I just mentioned, who is Texas and Oklahoma going to be made to play and where? So I don't think they want that as a distraction before and if they get early exit.
Dennis, what are your thoughts about Kendall Briles to TCU?
I think it's great. I mean, it's just another ascension for his career. You lose a Garrett Riley. I think that's a huge blow. But Kendall Briles is one of the most respected offensive coordinators in the game, and I think he's proved it. Carrying on his dad's concepts is very quietly being imitated all over the country. Obviously, a lot was written and said about Mike Leach, but Art Briles, for better or worse, learned a lot from Mike Leach as well. So I think Kendall has spread that on. So TCU, I think, will just continue to hum offensively as long as Sonny's there and now Kendall Briles.
Do you feel like that because of the year that Dykes had at TCU that there's blowback? You've seen it, read it, we've heard it. Do you feel like Sonny has enough goodwill that he was, hey, this is who I want, this is who we're going to take, and we're going to weather the storm no matter what people might say about Kendall? And TCU being one of those that was probably pointing the finger as much at Baylor as anybody.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. I've thought that since the beginning. A part of me was, why didn't Moore stick to Kendall? I'm not making accusations. I'm just wondering. And he's not the only former assistant coach at Baylor who's out there. But you're right. Now he's going to a Big 12 school, one that was accusatory. And questions have to be asked at TCU why they're doing this, and we know why. They want to win, and Kendall's proven. But with everything else going on in college athletics right now, questions about Kendall Briles' culpability from 6-7 years ago, I think is pretty minor. And yeah, is Sonny going to get who he wants? Absolutely, at this point, yeah.
Dennis, as we enter the offseason, there's a lot of storylines that start to spark back up, and that includes the realignment front. And I was just curious, with Kevin Warren now moving on, how much of a seismic shift in the way the Big Ten is operated, or maybe what the future looks like, and what people thought the future might look like, changes because somebody else will now be in charge of the Big Ten?
Well, I've already said kiddingly to Brett Yormark, well, you're now first in line for the West Coast. He didn't answer. He just kind of smiled. But I think I'll answer it this way. I think the presidents and ADs in the Big Ten have gotten tiresome of Kevin Warren's push for the West Coast schools. Whether that was the right thing to do or not, they just didn't think it was. And, that wasn't going to get done. And maybe that's the reason he left, although a lot of us think he was headed to the NFL in some capacity anyway. I just didn't think it would be after 3 years. So, long story short, the Big Ten stands pat. They have no interest in doing anything else. They don't want to go to the West Coast. It's going to be hard enough to assimilate USC and UCLA, and I think that story is yet to be written of what they're going to do about these minor sports who are going to have to spend a week out on the road, 3,000 miles away playing minor sports. And football and basketball you can figure out. But these other sports, it's going to be really weird. It's never been done before. So, no, I think they're the Big Ten standing pat.
What are your thoughts? And we mentioned the Big 12 schedule, but the Pac-12 still has not yet released their media deal. Do you feel like that that's a bad thing? Or do you feel like it doesn't matter as long as they announce it at some point here pretty soon? Or what's going on there?
Yeah, I think it's not good that they've gone this long now. Look, they could do it tomorrow and everything's fine, but the contract runs out next year, and typically you see something signed already. The Big 12, again, got in line ahead of the Pac-12 years in advance and did a new deal. No, I don't think it's good. I'm really, and I'm not the only one. I've written about it. I don't know what kind of deal they're going to get when there's not that much tier one content out there. And by tier one, I'm talking about USC, UCLA, Texas, Oklahoma, that sort of tier one content that someone will pay for. The speculation in the industry is there's going to be a lot of Pac-12 games in that new deal on streaming. That may be good in the future. I think it's bad in the present because you're adding a layer. This sounds really simple, but there's a certain amount of people who we might have Netflix, but you have to press that extra button to know where you're going, to get to the streaming, to want to see the games. The advantage that the NFL has with Amazon right now is that they have a deal that the games that are on Thursday night are seen in the local market. So I'm in Kansas City. If the Chiefs are on, I don't have to have it streaming set up. I can watch them on a local station. Also, all those NFL games are seen in restaurants and bars. That won't be the case with the Pac-12. So it's thought to be like an 80% streaming play, and then ESPN picking up maybe some late night games in that late window. After 10 o'clock at night, those late starts on the West Coast. And there's a lot of not speculation, but a lot of talk that they won't get much money for it. And I've already written this, it's not really about them getting as much or more as the Big 12. The Big 12 have a vast advantage in distribution. They're all on linear. They're on Fox and ESPN. Everybody has that. Streaming hasn't hit yet. If they're 80% of their content is on streaming, their ADs and presidents are going to lose their minds because of recruiting, because of visibility, because of everything. So that's yet to be determined. And you're absolutely right, Smokey. It's getting late for them.
Dennis, thank you for your time. We appreciate it very much. From CBS Sports, Dennis Dodd. Early exits for Texas, Oklahoma could help Big 12 repay members that agreed to diluted revenue upon expansion for the incoming 4 teams.
Yeah, a lot of good stuff there, and very interesting to hear, the Big Ten side of being a little bit over the California push, the West Coast push by Kevin Warren. It's like, but he did it though, right? Like he made this move and then he left town, and now we'll see what the follow-up to it is. And I agree with him on the Kendall Browse thing. And like I think I've said every day that we've talked about that, coaching-wise and last 7 years and all that, like that's absolutely, the right move, and it makes a lot of sense. It's just simply the hypocrisy that is the hard thing to swallow. That's it. That's the part that is just tough for people who know what a few years ago was like. That's the part that's hard to wrap your head around.
Imagine him.
Well, yeah, of course, yeah. I mean, I'm sure, but that, to be very clear on where we stand there, that's the part that's just like, come on now. But all the rest of it makes absolute sense. But yeah, there's the Pac-12 TV deal and all that. That's going to be very, very interesting. And man, the storylines never stop.
How about this on